My name is Amber Leon, and this is my Module 3 discussion in the ELRC 750 presentation. So, this week we read an article on the Paradigms Revisited, a quantitative investigation into a model to integrate objectivism and constructivism in instructional design. So, just some key points. In 2006, Kanye proposed the integration of two seemingly opposing learning approaches into a single model. The two that he was opposing were objectivist approach, which is externally mediated by a set of teaching practices, and the second was the constructivist approach, which is the internally mediated by psychological processes. Objectivism and constructivism have been traditionally classified as two different learning designs. The last key point is practitioners were given more tendency to use elements of both paradigms in consolidation fashion, which led to the model called the 4-quadrant model. So these are different key points that you will hear throughout my presentation. So what is the 4-quadrant model? Kanye proposed the integration of two seemingly opposing pedagogical approaches into a single model, which, like I stated before. So what is this? The 4-quadrant model was tested to see to what extent instructional design practitioners were in integrating elements of both paradigms into single learning events. So he basically wanted to try to see how we can put objectivism and constructivism together. When constructivists and objectivists are placed at right angles is when the 4 quadrants actually emerge. So the 4-quadrant scale. So right here, you will see immersion quadrant is low in elements of both direct instruction and constructive scaffolding. The construction quadrant is high in constructivist elements, but low in direct instruction. Injection quadrant is high in direct instruction and low in constructive elements, which calls to mind the medical metaphor of getting knowledge and skills through taking a pill or having it injected. Integration quadrant is one which, by design, is high in both elements. So, throughout the end of my presentation, you will probably notice how most of the study results do fall in that category. So, here's another framework. So, this is basically considered the world of knowledge, which is divided into 4 discrete units. So, you have the complex, which is cause and effect are only coherent in retrospect and do not repeat. Pattern management falls under this one. Perspective filters, complex adaptive systems, probe, sense, respond. The knowable portion of this is the cause and effect separate over time and space. Analytical and reductionist scenarios, planning, system thinking, sense analysis, or respond. Chaos. This one has the no cause and effect relationship perceivable. Sustainability, focused intervention, enactment tools, crisis management, act, sense, response. And the last one is the known. This one is the cause and effect relationships, repeatable, perceivable, and predictable. Legitimate best practice, standard operating procedures, processes, and re-engineering and sense categorize and response. So let's talk about the survey. The survey wanted the frequency which objectivist or constructivist characteristics were employed in courses developed by a stratified sample of instructional designers, course developers, and instructors who designed their own courses. and the sample was drawn from 400 colleges out of the 2,551 U.S. colleges and universities that had bachelor's degrees. So it had three different parts: the quantitative, the non-experimental, and the cross-sectional. So what kind of instrument development was going on? So you have the constructivist elements, objectivist characteristics, and constructivist characteristics, the Basson spreadsheet questionnaire, and the objective and constructivist integration assessment. So the tools to measure the presence of objectivist characteristics or the presence of both objectivist and constructivist characteristics in the same course or lessons are virtually just don't exist. So Kanjay had his graduate students create a tool to measure both the presence of objectivist and the constructivist characteristics in the same learning event. The tool was called the Basson spreadsheet questionnaire, which was used for participants, and they were asked to react to a series of statements related to the presence of direct aspects of learning in a course, and at the same time revealing whether a particular aspect of the course was more objectivist or constructivist in character. With the Basson tool being well used, it led into another tool called the Objectivist and Constructivist Integration Assessment. This tool summarized and referenced characteristics of objectivist and constructivist learning approaches. Participants were asked to rate how often various objectivist or constructivist learning elements were used in developing the course, and the answers included always, to a great degree, to some degree, or to never. So, what were the results? So here you can see that construction and immersion were the least. Integration and injection were almost tied with the percentage and the total. So integration had 3 and injection had 4. So we can see that the study is showing how more people went toward integration and injection. So the main study result here has quite a few different things going on. So for the integrating objectivist and constructivist elements had a 100% course shown to some degree of integration, and only 2 of the courses were close to being exclusively just objectivist. You can see in the construction quadrant that only 6.3%, 13 responses were made. But now if we go further down, we can see that integration had 74 courses, which is 30%, with 30% were in the integration quadrant. In the last one for injection, we can see that one had a 53.8% with 110 courses being shown. So as we can see, the construction quadrant and the immersion quadrant, even in this main study, had the fewest number of responses for out of the 4 quadrants. So my personal views and experiences with objectivism and constructivism is that I feel that objectivism has a better learning approach for learners that are seeking out more information than they were given by just being a human and going through their day-to-day life. We as humans, we pick up information and learn from our surroundings, which is a highly given skill we have, but we need information that we can build on from the bases that we already know. So constructivism, I feel, would be best for learners that are wanting to make their own way through factual information and put their own idea into it. I personally strive off of learning from factual information that is given to me by an instructor. For this class, I know for sure I would struggle if I were given instructions to just learn based off of my own internal thought process as I would if I was wanting to go toward constructivism, and I know that I'm understanding the material, and I would not know if I was understanding the material in the way that it was presented. But if I went through and if I was more of the objectivism learning, I would be given the information like we are given in this class now, and we are actually guided through this course by an instructor that has already went through it herself and can guide us through and to be able to gain the knowledge that we need. So I also feel that having these two come together, though, would not be a bad process because some information is doable when the learner draws from their own perspective. But at other times during a course, the information is just best presented to the learner from an instructor, like I said before, that can guide the students in the right path. So I think it's just more of how you're wanting to learn the material based off of what you're given. So I know for when we're as a younger as as a younger student, we're wanting to um, pick up on things that have different meaning that are not just spoon fed to us. So we're wanting to make our own approach to, let's say, a basketball game, or a math, um, or like a math problem. We're wanting to try to figure it out on our own, which should be something that we do as kids, and when we become adults, um, we're given more information, and then we can start being able to independently come to our own conclusions. So, um, just to summarize both of these two, I do believe that objectivism and constructivism, I mean, they could come together, but they're always going to have some type of separation. So here's my reference for this presentation. Thank you, and feedback is definitely appreciated.